Hey, shalom, guys, and welcome to Wisdom in Torah Ministries. I am doing a project this year that is dealing with the mitzvot. It's called the Taryag, the Taryag mitzvot, which is the 613 commandments. And I'm going to be teaching on the commandments in each Torah portion. Now, there's a whole bunch of them, so I'm going to have to try to find a way to cover all of them somehow, some way. And I will do that. I will put that on my website. And I think it's important that as believers in Yeshua, we are aware of all of the commandments in its cultural context, the way that they were intended to be used when we teach the Bible. And, one of the things that I'm doing lately is researching a lot on the context from cultural perspective, from the legal aspect of it, from Judaism's perspective, from historical sources. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of research, but it's fun research. I think it's great. I am a firm believer that as a follower of Yeshua, we must and should try to do our best to, as we teach the Torah, to be aware of the commandment. I think that being aware of the mitzvot, the commandment, is going to allow us to have a better foundation. An observation that I've been seeing in the last 5-6 years as I travel all over the world is that many people, as they come into the Hebrew understanding of the Bible, they are excited about the Torah, but we are not really taught how to really read the Torah or understand the legality of the temple or the connection between the temple and offerings. And then all of a sudden, a whole argument ensues about how to keep the commandments and which ones should we observe and where are they applicable and things like that. Well, instead of having a debate as to how and when or who is right and who is wrong, which is reality, we are all trying to find our way, I decided to just try to study it myself and research every single one of them myself to the best of my ability. And I think to share that with you, what I found. And this year, I want to be able to at least do my best to cover as many as we can. And we're going to start in the parasha Bo, in the Exodus chapter 12. What I'm going to do, I'm going to try to outline every single one of them. And I'm going to talk about the Torah portions in light of the context of the commandments. I'm not going to try to talk about every detail in the Torah portion. We're only going to focus on that Torah portion and the commandments within that Torah portion. For example, the parasha Bo has 20 commandments, 9 positive and 11 negative, or prohibitive and performative, okay? So that is mitzvah, commandment 4 through 23. So, and then we're going to go through all of them. There's one parasha, there's one Torah portion that contains 63 of them. That's in the book of, I think it's in the book of Leviticus. Okay? So, as you see, we have a lot of homework to do. And our desire is to try to grasp some of these commandments a little bit better. Now, clearly, the first year, I may not be able to cover every single one of them in detail that I would like. I spent just talking about one of them yesterday, a half hour. So there's a lot of information. I'm going to go right to the point as best as we can with basic information, okay? But today, what I want to do, I want to share some of the insights, how I'll be approaching this. So I'm going to give you just examples of how I'm going to do it, okay? So, and these commandments are actually found in the book of Leviticus, but I want to share with you the aspects of how we're covering it. And I'm going to connect it with what is called Kabbalah Shabbat, which is the reception of Shabbat. In the programs, Logos program that you see right here on the screen, when you go into the side and where it says tools, when you go to where it says tools right here, and you go all the way down, if you have this program, I think it's great that you study this. You go all the way to it says interactive media. You're going to find it says commandments of the law right over here. Okay? And it gives you an outline of all the 613 commandments. And on the left, you see all of them, or let me make this a little smaller so you see what I mean. Okay? It says all of them right here, or you can say not applicable today according to a particular resource. Talking about people, you can get more information. Any priest of Israel, It gives you information, okay? But I'm concerned about all the commandments. So today, what I'm going to do, I'm going to cover positive commandment number 20, revering the temple or the tabernacle. It says in Leviticus chapter 19, verse 30, you shall keep my Sabbath, in plural, holy convocations, and you shall revere my sanctuary. I am the Lord. Okay, and then also the same command is given in Leviticus 26, verse 2. You shall keep my Sabbaths, and you shall revere my sanctuary. I am the Lord. Leviticus 26, 2. Now, I think what is really interesting here is that is connecting the sanctuary, the temple, to the Sabbath. Okay, now, and we're going to connect this with the Kabbalah Shabbat, the reception of Shabbat. When we study the Torah, and as I've traveled, I've seen many people in their reception of Shabbat, they do it differently. When people talk about the Kiddush, they're talking about the blessing of the wine and the bread. In reality, that's not the Kiddush. That's part of the ritual for Shabbat, but in reality, the Kiddush, or the sanctification of the Sabbath, is more than the blessing of the wine. The blessing of the wine and the bread is included within the whole ritual of. And the reason why the whole table of Shabbat is the way that traditionally is not because the rabbis were sitting around thinking, how can we make our lives miserable on Friday night and add things that are not related to anything in the Bible and just do some rituals that maybe people don't need to do. But no, it's based on those very two verses I just read you. Let me repeat them again. In Leviticus 19, which is a commandment, it says, you shall keep my Sabbath, and you shall revere my sanctuary. I am the Lord. And the same thing is repeated in Leviticus 26, 2. With those verses being quoted the way they are, the fact that the Sabbaths and the sanctuary should be revered, that means that if you are keeping the Sabbath and you're not revering the tabernacle, then you're not really fulfilling the commandments. You're keeping one and disregarding the other. And if you revere the tabernacle or the tabernacle, the temple, but then you are disregarding the Sabbath, you're not keeping a command. It is connected for a reason. So after the destruction of the temple, they took the essence of the temple service, and in the Siddur, the prayer book, it follows the blueprint of the Shaharit, the morning service, and the Tamid, and also the Musaf, which are the sacrifices that were done during the special holidays that you find in Numbers 28 and Numbers 29 in regards to Pass unleavened bread sacrifices, Shavuot sacrifices, Yom Teruah sacrifices, Yom HaKippurim sacrifices, and also Sukkot. Those are called extras. They're Musaf. They're done in the afternoon, between the morning and the afternoon, and the morning and the afternoon service. Okay? So in the middle, in between. Okay? So what they've done, they've taken the service and elements of temple protocol, and they transfer them into the Sabbath based on those verses I just read you. So the rabbis will tell you that the table of Shabbat is as a metaphor of an altar. That's why you have salt on the table. The salt represents covenant, and more so, it is a command to put salt on every single one of the offerings. It represents covenant, friendship, long-lasting, whole bunch of meanings behind what salt means in the Bible. Then you have the bread. You got a double portion. That's to remind us about the double portion given in the wilderness. In other words, the whole table of Shabbat is a teaching about who is the patron, who is the provider, and to remember the Sabbath in connection, that our home becomes like a microcosm of the temple in which now we are proclaiming to be holy. Okay, then you have the washing of the hands. Many people say, well, that's a man-made commandment. It's not in the Bible. It's not true. It's actually in the commands given to the priests. Before they will worship, they have to wash their hands and feet. And there is a psalm that says, who shall ascend the mountain of the Lord, those with clean hands and a clean heart. So therefore, hands is what we do, righteousness. The heart is loyalty to God. So when we present ourselves before the Lord and we wash our hands before we eat, we're saying, are we worthy? Are we righteous to sit at your table to partake of what you have to offer? Then we do a blessing over the children, blessing them with the blessing that Jacob gave to Ephraim and Manasseh. By the way, that's the only time in which a head of the household, a male head of the household, who is not of the priestly line, could bless the children of the Aaronic blessing, because Numbers chapter 6 tells us that that blessing of the Kohanim, of the priests, is only given by the sons of Aaron. They are the only one, according to Torah, who can give the blessing and chant it. That's how it was done in the temple. But on Shabbat, the way that they say is, well, we are our house becomes a temple, and the head of the family is going to pray so he can say the prayer to his children. He can read it as a blessing, and that's why they added just as Ephraim and Manasseh. Okay, so it's connected with the blessing of Ephraim and Manasseh. But when we talk about the sanctification of the day, what is the Kiddush? The Kiddush is all about proclaiming God's holiness. When we read in the book of Leviticus, I'm going to read in my Bible here real quick, Leviticus chapter 23. When we go to Leviticus 23 and we read the chapter, it teaches us something really interesting. It gives us a blueprint as to what are we to do during the holidays. So in Leviticus 23 verse 1 and 2 reads this way. It says, "The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the people of Israel and say to them, These are the appointed times of the Lord that you shall proclaim as holy convocations. These are my appointed dates." Okay, so we are to proclaim. Now, when you go to verse 44, in this version it says, "Thus Moses declared to the people of Israel the appointed times of the Lord." There's a distinction between declaring and proclaiming. Okay, so we know that Moses was the leader of the community. He was the leader of the Sanhedrin Council, or if you don't like that name, you can call it the men of the 70 elders in the wilderness. Moses was the leader. They were in charge of the holy appointed feasts and the holy convocations. According to the Torah, they're the only ones who can declare them holy. We are to proclaim them. We proclaim what has been declared holy. God creates, He establishes, He raises up a kingdom. That kingdom's responsibility is to be a government. Within the government, you have the people. And then within the people, you have a judicial body in charge of the holy things, dealing with the temple, dealing with the sacred times, dealing with sacred spaces. That's what the Sanhedrin was about. They were in charge of rule and law. Proclaiming is our job. Declaring is their job. Okay, so therefore, due to the fact that we are to proclaim God's holy sacred spaces, Sabbath becomes the weekly sacred space in which we are responsible to proclaim, so that the world would know that we serve the God of Israel and only Him. So the blessing is, I'm following the Sephardic tradition, which says Shabbat Mekudash. Mekudash, which means sanctify Shabbat. It says, the sixth day, thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all their array. On the seventh day, God completed the work which He had done, and He abstained on the seventh day from all the work which He had done. God blessed the seventh day and hallowed it, because on it He had abstained from all His work which God created to make. Okay? So therefore, at that moment, we are quoting verses. We're quoting Genesis 1, verse 31 to chapter 2, 1 through 3. Then after we do that, then we do the blessing of the wine as a people, thanking God for His provision. Then we do the blessing, and then listen to what it says after that. It says, "Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who creates the fruit of the vine. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us." See, now we're proclaiming not only that he is a creator, we are proclaiming that he sanctifies his people. Okay, that he sanctifies his people and that he is holy. And it says, "Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments, took pleasure in us with love and favor, gave us his holy Sabbath as a heritage and a remembrance of creation, the prologue of the holy convocations, a memorial of the exodus from Egypt, and your holy Sabbath with love and favor. You did give it to us as a heritage. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, who sanctifies the Shabbat." That is the Kiddush. That is how we sanctify the day. It's not just picking up the wine and blessing God for that, or the bread. That's only elements within the Kiddush. The reason why that's not the Kiddush, but part of, is because what we are called to do is proclaiming that God brought order from chaos, when we proclaim that it is the God of Israel who created the heavens and the earth. So the Kiddush is when we say the sixth day. God did a creation. Let me read it again. When we say the 6 days, the sixth day, does the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the array. On the seventh day, okay, God completed the work that he had made, in which he had done. So therefore, when we proclaim that it was God who sanctified the day, we are responsible as his servants to proclaim to the nations that he is the creator, that he is our king, that he is our sovereign, that he is our provider. And the whole ritual after that is traditional, comes from temple protocol, based on the two verses I read you earlier in Leviticus 19:30 and Leviticus 26:2, is to teach us that the table of Shabbat is as a miniature of the millennial reign, or a temple in which God wants to dwell with us in a sacred space when there's no chaos, darkness, no death, darkness, no exile, darkness, but that within our house there's a light that shines, and is the light of the Torah within us. And us believers in Yeshua should be really grateful that through Yeshua the Messiah, now we can learn these principles so that we can integrate ourselves and join together with the whole Jewish world who is proclaiming God as sovereign, as provider and king. This is not about Judaism or believers in Yeshua, because Yeshua would have been a participant of the Kiddush. He was a Jew. He lived as a Jew. He is and will be, and when he returns, he will be a Jew. So therefore, if he will go anywhere on Shabbat, he will do the blessings, because he will be more than happy than to bless his Father who sent him here to restore and to proclaim his name. So as we do our research in the temple service, as we study each one of the commandments, hopefully you join me in this journey, and you will see that many things we thought were made up, in fact, they're not. And I think that there's a huge misconception, because I don't think, and let's be honest for 1 second, how many of us really have studied thoroughly each one of the commandments of the Lord? We say we follow Torah, but have we really studied the 613 commandments in the Torah? And then once we learn those, we can really follow the whole line of sequence of understanding and legality all the way to the book of Revelation. Let us study together. Let us research the commands. Let us understand his context, his fundamental principles behind it without philosophy. Let's try to go right to the point of the matter, to the context, to the temple, to the sanctuary. We are told to revere the sanctuary. How come we're not studying the 271 commandments directly linked with the temple? We are commanded by God to revere his sanctuary. then how come we're not doing that? Something to consider. And I wanted to give you a little glimpse of some of the things we're going to be researching and looking and studying. And today I give you a little nugget of how certain commands can translate into our everyday life so that our everyday life can reflect a life of worship in which a simple ritual, a rite of passage, from the 6th day into the 7th day, that whole liminal phase, that whole rite of passage is actually a fulfillment of a commandment using the principles of the temple in order for us, in keeping the Sabbath, and through that ritual, fulfilled 2 commands in one day. Shalom to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us. WisdomInTorah.com. I know you'll be blessed. I pray you'll be blessed. And keep us in your prayers and join us. Let us study the heart of God together. Shalom.